Have you ever wondered why millions of people study success, read all the books, go to all the seminars, but so few actually achieve it? Well, we're about to dive into a pretty wild theory that says the answer isn't in your mindset. Nope, it's in your brain's physical hardware and a secret plot designed to keep it from ever working properly.
So the theory we're breaking down today makes a bold claim. It says the problem isn't the advice. The problem isn't that you're not trying hard enough. The problem, it suggests, is biological. A physical difference, literally inside our skulls, that determines whether any of these success principles will ever work for us.
All right, so here's our roadmap. We're going to start with what's called the manifestation paradox. Then we'll get into the brain's secret hardware. After that, we'll talk about wealth on a specific wavelength. Then explore a very controversial theory about a fluoride plot. And finally, wrap up with a 3-step plan for rewiring your brain for riches.
Okay, first up, the manifestation paradox. You know, the core idea here is pretty simple. If all it took was reading a book like Think and Grow Rich, we'd all be millionaires by now, right? Clearly, there's a major piece of the puzzle that's missing for most people.
The source material we're looking at draws a really hard line in the sand. It basically says you have to listen to people who have actually done it, not just people who are good at repeating what they've read in a book. I mean, the argument is pretty straightforward. You can't really be an expert on getting rich if you're not rich yourself.
And to really hammer this point home, the source points to this number. It alleges that, in one survey, less than half of 1%, let that sink in, half of 1% of people who actually apply the principles from Think and Grow Rich ever become wealthy. That is a staggering 99.5% failure rate.
So, this brings us right to the heart of the theory, the brain's secret hardware. The argument here is that the real difference between the rich and everyone else isn't just about mindset or attitude, it's physical. The difference is literally in the brain itself.
And specifically, it all comes down to two little parts of the brain, which this theory identifies as the critical hardware for creating your reality. Those are the hippocampus and the pineal gland. So let's take a look at each one.
First, we've got the hippocampus. Now, you might know it's related to memory, but in this model, it's something much more. It's the brain's transmitter. Think of it like a radio antenna that's constantly broadcasting your desires out into the universe. And just like any antenna, the bigger it is, the stronger and clearer the signal.
And here is where the theory makes a really shocking claim. The source alleges that the hippocampus in a wealthy person's brain is physically larger. We're talking anywhere from 30 to 100% larger than the hippocampus in an average person's brain. A massive physical difference.
Now, the second key piece of hardware is the pineal gland. This one is described as something a lot more esoteric. It's called a multidimensional transmitter, the thing that connects you to your intuition, to your gut feelings, even to so-called supernatural abilities. But here's the catch. The source claims that in most people, this gland is calcified, basically hardened, shut down, and switched off.
Okay, so if the brain is a transmitter, then it has to be broadcasting on a certain frequency, right? This leads us perfectly into our third section, wealth on a wavelength, where we explore the idea of brain frequencies.
So this theory lays out 5 main brainwaves. Way down at the bottom is delta, for deep sleep and healing. Then you get theta, and this is a key one. They call it the wealth and prosperity wave. Above that is alpha, for relaxed learning. Then there's beta, which gets a pretty harsh label, the poverty wave. And right at the top is gamma, the genius wave. So what frequency is the average person broadcasting on all day long? Well, according to this theory, a whopping 90% of our waking hours are spent in that beta state, the frequency of stress, of worry, of struggle, that so-called poverty wave.
But in stark contrast, wealthy people are allegedly operating on a completely different set of frequencies. Their brains are said to be primarily broadcasting on theta, the wealth wave, along with the genius and relaxation waves. They spend almost no time in that stressful beta state.
Well, this begs a huge question, doesn't it? Why are most people supposedly stuck in that beta stress state with a calcified pineal gland? This is where we get into the single most controversial part of this whole theory, the alleged fluoride plot.
To set the stage, the source material points to this very famous quote from the classic film Dr. Strangelove. The idea presented is that this was a kind of clue hidden in plain sight for decades, and the central claim is that fluoride, well, it's not what we've been told it is.
So here are the claims, and they're pretty out there. The theory says fluoride is a toxic byproduct of the fertilizer industry, that it was used historically to create more docile, controllable populations.
And here's the kicker. It's claimed to be the primary cause of calcification in both the pineal gland, which stops manifestation, and the thyroid gland, which tanks your motivation.
So let's just be crystal clear on what's being alleged here. The central claim is that fluoride is deliberately put into the water supply as a tool to keep people stressed, passive, unhealthy, and cut off from their natural ability to create and manifest.
Okay, after hearing all of that, you're probably wondering, well, is there anything we can do about it? The final part of this theory says yes, there is, and it's all about rewiring for riches.
The proposed plan is broken down into 3 main steps. First, you have to decalcify the pineal gland. Second, you have to actively take steps to grow the hippocampus. And third, a classic piece of advice you've probably heard before: associate with winners.
So how do you actually grow your hippocampus? Well, the source suggests a couple of pretty simple methods. One is just reading books. The act of reading, especially stories, engages your imagination and supposedly stimulates physical brain growth. Another one is just walking in nature. The theory claims that the sounds, like crickets and running water, along with negative ions in the air, have a direct positive effect. But the most powerful method of all, according to this theory, is association. The idea is that just by being physically near successful people who are already broadcasting on those powerful theta waves, it causes your own brain to start vibrating at the same frequency. It's like a tuning fork for your brain, stimulating your own manifestation hardware faster than anything else.
All right, so let's quickly recap the key takeaways here. The theory argues that success is biological, not just psychological. It claims the key is shifting your brain waves from the beta state of stress into the theta state of prosperity. It alleges a controversial fluoride plot is the main thing holding people back. And it proposes solutions that involve natural activities and the power of who you associate with. And all of that leaves us with one final big thought. If this theory holds any water, and your brain is a transmitter constantly shaping your reality, then the most important question you can possibly ask yourself is this: what channel are you tuned into?